title will be Are We Prepared for the Future, not the extreme future. And then we have 6 categories. Number 1 is what do we need to prepare for the future. Number 2, how to prepare for the future. Number 3, why did we choose Seoul Global High School. Number 4, and Brian, he had interviews with the students. And number 5, and we're going to tell you about what we find this. And then we're going to go over it one by one. First, what do we need to prepare for the future? And then we think we need 4 things. First is language skills. Second is understanding other cultures. Number 3 is debate and discussion skills. And number 4 is roots in Korea, because there is Korean high school. And number 2 is how to prepare for the future. And then Brian and I think we can help students prepare for the future through education, because both are educators. And then why we choose Seoul Global High School. And then as I said, we need 4 skills. And number 1 is language skills. Our high school has 2 tracks. One is domestic high school and the second is international tracks. And also our students, they speak English, and that is a basic language, and then Chinese, Spanish, Japanese, Portuguese, and French. And then number 2, understanding other cultures. I think understanding other cultures is really important to work in an international society. And then our school is composed of students from America. There are many returnees and Canadians and China and Japanese and Brazilian and British. And it means the students, they can share their own cultures together. And number 3 is at Seoul Global High School, the classes focuses on learner-centered class, and then we focus on the debate and discussion classes. And the students, they are really good at making presentations. And the number 4, I think number 4 is the most important things. And they are, all of them are Korean students, and then they have roots in Korea, so they have to understand the Korean traditional cultures. And we have many activities to understanding Korean culture, and there is number 1 is Korean traditional dance, and then number 2 is we have samulori. Samulori is kind of Korean traditional percussion. And every morning our students, they have a taekwondo class. And the next one is,
what do you think would be a good international education?
I think first of all, starting with language, English should be the main language taught within the curriculum. And then you definitely need a second language, and I would recommend probably Chinese. And I think good international education is you need diversity, or you need the students exposed to diversity. Because if you want to, as an international student, you should be able to work with people of different races, not only your own race, because that's what international.
Do you think Seoul Global High School is succeeding in that?
Yeah, I think not succeeding, but they are taking the right. They are taking steps towards that. The language, they already have Chinese and Spanish available, so I think that's great. Something that a lot of schools don't.
Why do you think it's impossible for the school to have diversity?
This is like a Korean school funded by the government. I would say only like majority of the students interested in coming here would be the Korean students that lived here their whole lives. Because like students who live
Was this school the last choice or only choice for you?
Yeah, it was the only choice actually.
Because of money?
Yeah, that's because of money. So if I had the money, I would have gone to Chinese school.
Okay. Okay. How long have you been back in
Korea?
Yeah.
I lived in America 14 years, so I went there when I was 2, so I'm a Korean citizen. That's why I came here as an English special student. And I've been here for, I think, almost half a year now. I came here in the summer, 2009.
Only been here for half a year. Okay, and you went to public schools in America?
Yes, only public schools.
Okay, how would you compare a public school in America that did not focus on anything globalization or international, and now you're in a Korean public school, but it has a focus on, has an international focus? How would you compare them?
Actually, what's interesting is I was part of a small debate online within this Korean American forum, I guess, a chat room. And there was a small debate about Korean education versus American education. And so I remember what I said. Advantages I think is that the kids are so motivated, whether it be negative or positive, but they are motivated nonetheless to work hard, to work probably 110%. And I never saw that in America. Probably like within like the really smart kids, they would be motivated, but everybody else, they weren't motivated. They would probably slack off. And like because this motivation, it's like everybody has it. So people who weren't motivated, like myself, because we were never part of that atmosphere. So like we see ourselves like changing or actually beginning to study. And and I think there's a lot of community service available. So like in America, I would never be able to do all these community service, UNICEF clubs, etc. But at this school, they have a lot of that. So that's what I really.
Did you want to do them?
Yeah, definitely.
You wanted to. This school gave you the opportunity.
Yeah, it's like here, not in America. They didn't really have any. Let's go help kids, or let's go to Mongolia or something.
Before you lived in America, and you went to a public school. All right, so you went to a regular public school in America. Now you've come to this school in Korea. It's also a public school, but it's a kind of a global school. Which school do you think is preparing you better for your future life?
Well, hands down it'd be the school, because my old school, like, even though it was a public school, it was one of those like big public schools where like anyone just goes, and it's like Georgia, so it's not really like upper class or anything. But I feel like this school, with its like limited amount of people and like the dormitories and stuff, and it's more serious, I guess you could say. Like they have more of a vision and a plan for like the kids, and it kind of motivates you more than my other school.
Do you think the school's living up to its vision and plan?
I feel like it's trying, and it's close.
Getting there?
Getting there. I mean, it is a new school, so it's understandable that they haven't figured out everything yet, but I feel like it's pretty good.
A lot of your middle school life abroad, your younger life, can you compare your school life overseas with this school?
Although it's a global high school, I still think it's more like other Korean high schools, because we're still learning Korean language, history, and many of the teachers speak Korean in classes, and we have to take taekwondo every morning. And also, since most of the students here are Korean, the atmosphere is kind of different. Like when I was back in the Philippines, kids used to be more like free, and the way they think, it's very different. And Korean kids I think they're a bit more quiet, and they spend more time studying than foreigners.
Okay, good. What do you think the school should do to help students prepare for a globalized future? What do you think they should do to improve in the future, to help students for their future?
I think the school should spend more time on English conversation and writing, because when I first went to the Philippines, I couldn't speak English, and it was really hard for me to speak and make friends.
You used to live in America, New Jersey, right?
Yeah.
Your whole life, pretty much.
Yeah.
All right. What was your school life like in New Jersey compared with your school life here?
Well, school life here is a lot more strict, and there's a lot more like rules that's set down. And like in America, you could just study where you want, eat where you want, eat whenever you want. So it's just as long as you follow the schedule, and it's more of a free and independent environment. Well, compared to here, it's more of a like you have to do it at a certain time in a certain way. So it's not as free as in America.
Okay. Okay, good. So, what do you think would be a good international education?
Okay, so this school is kind of hoping for most of their students to go to US, right? And I think something really important that that should be taught but is not taught at the school is health education, like sex ed and drugs, because a lot of the Korean girls in this school, like in this country in general, they're so unexposed to these kind of things. So when they go to US, they're gonna be like so innocent-minded and gonna be really naive when it comes to those kind of things. So like I heard from a friend of a friend of a friend, right, that there's this Korean health teacher, and then he prepared this PowerPoint, right, about sex ed, right, all the important stuff about it and how to have safe sex, right. But all the girls in that class apparently, like, they were all so shocked and scared that the teacher had to like skip basically the whole presentation, and they didn't learn anything from it. So I think that's really important.
In Canada, right?
Yeah.
You went to a public school?
I went to a middle school for middle school, and for my 2 years, like 1.5 years in high school, I went to a public school.
Went to public school. But that did not have an international outlook, right? But then you come to this school and it supposedly does have an international outlook. How would you compare the two?
Like, here, I find it interesting how AP and SAT courses, like, we don't really have to pay for them, right? But back in Canada, like, schools don't offer those kind of things. And to take private classes for AP and SAT costs like thousands of dollars for AP private stuff.
School in 10 years as a teacher, or as a person with the power to change things, what would you do differently?
When you say teacher, is it possibly...
Or principal.
Oh, okay.
You have the power to change things. What would you do differently?
Definitely give some more free time, because, I don't know, I think we need that.
More free time?
Because like every hour or minute we're here, we're like either in self-study room or in like another class or doing work or something like that. But I find it equally as important to like be able to relax sometimes, and also more time to sleep, because it's really important, right? And we only get like a maximum 6 hours of sleep because we get sent to dorms at like 11 o'clock and we have to wake up at 6, right? So yeah, those are the two.
From the interview with the students, and we had 4 very important things, and then 2 of them are very, very positive, and 2 of them are not that positive or a little negative. And then those students we had interviewed, they also said to prepare for the international education, and the language skills is very, very important, and second is understanding diversity of cultures is really important. And they also said our schools, Seoul Global High School's curriculum is really great, but in some ways the curriculum is career-centered social system, because there is a public school of Korea. And then the students from abroad, and they said this school need more free time to students make their own decisions, and that they want to be more independent students. Those are our findings from our project, and that's it. Thank you.